outward perspective. And I'm seeing that Kenya, we have a problem, especially with the education. And I'll still relate on this in every way because out from education, we are having people who are coming out from there and lying to us. So I'm asking myself, why is it so easy to just change educational system and bringing chaos inside them, and then end up having people who come out with fake certificates and then say that we're going to have better leaders. I think we have to make sure that this education system is well based, well calligraphed, so that nobody can come out from there with lies. As in, I do not understand this because if, for example, you talked about Babuino, and this I had to fight with Peter Selassie because I'm in France and I was like, how can he say that he has a PhD? And I know very well you have either you bought it or you have to have, because there was no class on that issue. That one is a very well choreographed, and then it is put into on people's ideas in Kenya who may be or may not be able to look at the issue in larger context because they are running left and right because of the poor environment they are being subjected into. And then people have just to accept whoever is brought about in the system. This is a very good question, and I think Professor Ogola, because you are in the educational system, if there is a way to, what do you think there is the way to calligraph this, to make this education system not to be touched by politicians, because it is too much for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Professor Wendy's hand is up again. Maybe she wants to ask a question. I think we are now bordering on integrity. And like you said, nursery, today there was a case of cheating in grade 6. So Wendy, if it's a question, a quick one, then Professor, I think we need to just address integrity also. Narok had given you a mic. I can see you've asked again. I will give you the mic. Wendy, quick submission before we go back to the prof.
Hi, thanks, Redempta. And Hannah, just to respond to you, we have people coming from the Harvards and even Alliance who like do not have any values. So I think it's a delicate balance between education and values, because I think we have to have intrinsic values as a people, because as Eli said, history, how is it convenient? From a quick Wikipedia search, no one in their right minds would have voted the way they voted in 2022. And so I think, Hannah, the education is important so that maybe we can get the skills to run government and govern our society. But I think we need to reflect mostly on ourselves as a people and what we believe in and our intrinsic values as a people, because that's what, again, maybe not to sound too much of a pessimist, that's what frustrates me again in this movement, because it's so convenient. Like even Prof, you will build the hospital, you will empower the people, but ikifika 2027, what do you? Watakuja, baba atakuja na maybe 200 wacheze, and then it's like, oh, no one can never even dare speak against Raila. I think that's what frustrates me as Kenyan. Like, do we have values? Do we stand for anything? Thanks, Redempta.
Thank you. And Professor, just to thank you again because you've had a long day. So I think you addressed that, and then I'll ask another question. Asante.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much, Mizani. Your question is simple. The Chinese have adopted what is called meritocracy. And you heard about the issue of what made Singapore great. I don't want to repeat. It was discussed hugely about meritocracy. It's about pragmatism, and it's about integrity. That's what brought Singapore to what it is. And Chinese learned the hard way before they adopted meritocracy. And history, just to be told briefly, that there's a Chinese president who appointed his uncle to head the military, and the uncle led them to losing a war they could have won very easily because of lack of meritocracy. Then the Chinese decided that from that very day is meritocracy. And meritocracy rewards you in China. You can't believe it. Chinese people say they are dictatorship and communism, but meritocracy earns you something in China, and the society rewards meritocracy. If you go to University of Hong Kong, you go to University of Shanghai, the topmost professors have the topmost salaries and all that. So the best and brightest of China, the best and brightest of Japan, Korea, earns more than the thugs. But in Kenya, the best and brightest, like some of you on this Twitter space, are only scratching dust, while the thugs who know nothing, who are not qualified, earns everything. So until the education system starts to reward people mizani, we are simply not build that system. But when we start looking at these records and people know these records we looked at, no one will lie. Like someone came to me and told me, Professor, I do not have a university degree, but I want to run for governor of Kakamega. Can you please help me how I can do this? And I told him, I can't even help you because I don't even believe that. And I want to give you an example. When I was a professor in Strathmore, there is a time when the son of one of the VC failed in my exam and wanted to graduate. And I insisted he cannot get the graduation. I was told, you know, that is the son of the VC. And I told him, I don't care. Me, I'll just mark as per required. Then the VC called me to his office when the son had failed. That, why do you fail my son? Then I asked him, suppose this your son becomes a doctor and you are the one who wants to get patients. Will you be ready to consume his services? The VC went just quiet and left me. The other instance was that there's a governor who was supposed to graduate in Strathmore. He had already, a governor, sitting governor, he had already even brought a party. He had invited 5 heads of state from outside. All governors were invited. William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta were the president, deputy president by then. They were gracing the occasion. And he told me I must graduate. One unit I've not done. I told him, you can't. I was called the VC's office. The VC told me, how can you help the guy? I told him, me, I don't know Miss VC. I'm an academic director. I'm the one who approves these things. If you have a way to help him, write to me on email. The VC looked at me on my face and just sympathized and just told the guy that this guy, you can't change his mind. Just forget about it. The guy graduated much later. What I'm trying to say is that we need somebody who stands on his value. The government told me, come, we meet in the golf course in Karen. I told him, as academic director, I cannot meet in the golf course. But if you want to meet on academic, come to that my small office. It looks funny, but that's where academic decisions are made. If you want to give me a tender in your county, we can meet in the Garden Golf Club. Why don't we just reward meritocracy? It's as simple as such. So if meritocracy cannot be a way we do things, people say, oh, don't care about your graduation. It's okay. Then Wendy, what you have said is very fundamental, but I'll tackle it this way. We are not saying that only the educated and the certificate of Harvard should work. What we are saying, why are you saying you graduated from Harvard and you didn't? That's the problem. If you come and say, for me, I have no degree, I want to become a governor, do you know the Constitution does not bar you from running for governor if you have no degree? You know that? Because there's what is called what is legal, which is what should bar you, but what is constitutional. The Constitution is very clear that so long as you have an ID, you can run for president. So that's what the Constitution says. But the laws and legal things done here in Parliament here and there can say they can buy you. So it becomes an aspect of interpretation. So just say me seen a degree like nataka kuwa governor. Why do you say I have a PhD? Now Bobo Wino says he has double PhDs. So you have double PhDs that you don't have them, and already you are an MP. And by being an MP, you qualify to becoming president. Why don't you just run? Bob Collymore never pretended. Bob Collymore never had a degree. There's an article published in African Journal of Management how Bob Collymore, even without a degree, was able to run Safaricom, which is the largest and most profitable company in East Africa. Bob told me with an interview, Fred, I only have a diploma. Did it stop him from running Safaricom? No. But for you, you want to run a constituency with a fake degree. what is the point? Why don't you just run the constituency with a certificate? Constituency has a budget of around 180 million shillings. What is Safaricom's budget? So what we are saying here is that let us not pretend that the sign that somebody is trying to say they have a degree to con people of an impression they don't have. That's my problem. I don't despise anybody. In my family, I'm a professor with all these my degrees, but I'm also aware at the same time that I have a brother who didn't finish class 8, and he's even more industrious, and I even like him. So there's nothing like despising people on academia. We are just simply saying, why are you lying about your degree? And then my last submission here on how to finish this matter, I I work with the Norwegians, and the Norwegians, there's this thing of using the Auditor General's reports. The issue of independent institutions, why I was fighting with Ruto with 46 petitions, was destroying the independence of institutions. If a president can call Strathmore, which is a private university that he doesn't pay money to, and command them to fire me, there's a problem. And also our own institutions, why don't they tell the president this is nothing that you can do? I remember when I wanted to launch a book called Solomonic Economics, I went to Daystar University. They agreed. Then later they received a call, I cannot launch a book there. It was cancelled. USIU, then KU. Then I had to launch this book on KTN in their boardroom, in one of their auditorium, in KTN live, because no university would allow me to launch my book. So how can universities be controlled by the state? So that's why even you and me, brothers, we are fighting. Where is the independence of our institutions? And to close the matter on the hospital in Kisumu, actually, these are not building for political interests. This is, even for me, has a commercial interest there, right? Because I'm helping mobilize finances. I'm really a staff there. I'm working for Zima University. It's a Catholic institution belonging to the Eastern African region. So it is whether Raila gets the vote or not, it doesn't matter. I am doing it for the purpose of just building it. And that will demonstrate leadership. It won't demonstrate political leadership, but will demonstrate that somebody can do something. Because the only hospital in Kisumu, which is big, was done by the Russians. So we can build another one here and just succeed. So it is not about political capital because it's just about helping and delivering something outstanding. But Kenyans, don't give up because we must continue pursuing the ideals. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I don't know. We ended up going the university way. We are still coming back to the conmanship in politics, in political parties. I want us to keep that in as a conversation. Odur, 3 minutes, Odur. Please unmute your mic. Japoji, I see your requests. After Odur, we have Morara Kebaso with 002, not the original. Odur, going once. Okay, the Morara Kebaso look alike. Are you not hearing is anyone hearing me? Mizani, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. I think we are looking for followers, so don't worry about that. We can proceed to the next one.
Yes. I have given Japonji.
Can you hear me? Can you
Japonji.
hear me?
Yes, continue.
The first time I'm entering your space, and thankful for the mic. I just entered the space when Professor was speaking, and I noted that he was talking about meritocracy. So I wanted to ask the professor, does he actually believe that meritocracy can work in Kenya? You know, because if we look at meritocracy, most education in Kenya is very expensive. So most poor people cannot afford education. So I would like him to just go back a little bit and explain that part for me. Thank you so much. Then I'll pick up from there.
Okay, so Professor, I don't want you to take too long on that conversation. You please answer him, because I think it looked like at part of the conversation looked like we are pushing for you have to have degrees, but it was a discussion about integrity. Why do people pretend to have something they don't have when they could be very good leaders without education? And then the real question I would want us to address is Jimmy Wanjigi, whom I've interviewed, came and exposed the odious debt. So now, does that qualify him? Kalonzo has sued Adani. Does that qualify him? So is it that we are still going back to being dangled carrots that because I have done this, now I've qualified to be a leader? So you can handle the two. Although I don't see him. Wendy, oh, I can see you. Yeah, so Professor, handle those two together.
Yeah, so just a quick one, and I'll make this submission, then I'll exit because I have to run something. Just it's getting late here a little bit. So first of all, on the question of meritocracy, it can work in Kenya, but meritocracy does not mean people must have degree. The architect I'm working with to design the Kisumu Uzima Hospital, he has a diploma. He does not have a degree. If you go to Germany, you find people who have done professional education, professional vocational training. They just know how to do work. If you go to China, there are so many people who don't go to do university. They do vocational training. For example, they do what's called tooling engineers. That's why you see Apple going to manufacture iPhone in China, but not in Africa, because labor is even more expensive in China than Africa. They can assemble. Americans don't have tooling engineers because they don't have vocational programs to make people know how to assemble an iPhone or any technology. So what I mean by meritocracy is that if you're a class 8 and pass as per your pay grade, how should someone who is high level not even have an opportunity to teach because you are running a university which is tribal, and therefore the lecturers will also be speaking the same language as the owner of the university, for example. You've heard whereby people say in more university, we must have a Kalenjin. Those are not meritocracy now. There are so many professors who are qualified, who are Kalenjins and not. Why don't we just look at, we want this qualification and let people battle out and get their jobs? What I mean is that it's not doesn't mean that we are trying to say education and the rest. It's just like merit should be what is required. A university graduate cannot go and want that he wants to supervise house helps or sweepers. That's not merit. They don't know it even if they have a degree. And on the issue of Adani, the issue of Jim Wanjigi, and the issue of Kalonzo Musyoka, again, I don't want to make noise about my fellow opposition, because there's a rule: if you are in opposition, don't fight opposition, because the enemy is one William Ruto. But nevertheless, there will emergence of false prophets, which I said earlier. Kalonzo Musyoka, by taking Adani to court, doesn't become a leader all of a sudden, because also we know very well that this petition, Kalonzo Musyoka was enjoined. It is not his original idea, because the Adani case, we know. If you go to that petition, Kalonzo Musyoka is not the main petitioner, not even the first petitioner. They were just enjoined to get political name and goodwill. They have no idea about even this Adani, and they don't even care. The scandals Kalonzo Musyoka has found himself, the land in Mavoko, which I have a petition, I'm going to Machakos court on 9th, the 7th, they want me in person. I'll be there. Kalonzo Musyoka has issues in Yatta. They have not yet been resolved. So that does not absolve him. And if you ask me in court, if you are arrested for having stolen something in company of others, if you volunteer information, what the judges normally do, or even the court judiciary system, they reduce your jail term, but they do not withdraw them. So Kalonzo's and among the other corrupt leaders before, we are not going to remove their jail term, but we shall just give them less pain for offering more information. But we cannot say that now they are clean. Look at Jim Wanjigi's history. I'm not the one saying it, but there's been a story that he was the architect Anglo leasing. I don't know myself, but of course, when I say don't know, I'm saying I can't confirm it, but there's evidence that He was an architect. Negotiations between Raila Odinga, Kibaki, William Ruto, and Uhuru Kenyatta have been done in his house. So even all these things we are saying, they look for me like a drama. But maybe Willis, who is my colleague, and I think he was opposing this one, needs to really explain to us what are really the position. They'll say, oh, they have not been charged in court. They can't be charged in court because they are protected. So according to me, we don't just jump on someone because all of a sudden they are trying to mention the problems we have. And Jim Wanjigi is bitter with the administration of William Ruto because he didn't gain from the promises. Jim Wanjigi endorsed William Ruto in camera. So he has to explain to us what has happened now that William Ruto is all of a sudden now an evil person, isn't it? That he's the one thinking can save us. Thank you.
Thank you. Today, I am not shying away from mentioning names because I realize that a lot of people do not know the political games, and we owe it to you as older people who've experienced this country to know that there's a trap of appearing to know, to speak your language, to know your problems. And that's why we have these conversations. We shape the narrative because the script right now is we have to appear to be doing something, filing a petition, saying let's arm ourselves, let's go to the streets. But if you're just having real conversations, then you become unpopular. So, Professor, thank you so much. I don't know if you want to make a last submission before I bring Oseo in. Thank you. You're in another country. You accepted when I was not happy with you. And there was a reason I was not happy with you because I think you can offer leadership in this country. There's still a place for activism in as much as you're doing that because activists seem to be benefiting from rabble rising and going to the communities, going to Kibera, going to Madare. And we have to do what they are doing sometimes in order to get to the final destination, which is a just society. So maybe your
Yeah,
last submissions before we continue this conversation, then I can
mine
open the floor.
is thank you very much. Mine is to thank you very much and all the listeners, and just continue by saying there's a process to get meritocracy, and it starts by us telling people to do due diligence, not just jump on emotional conversation, sensational media reporting, and ensuring that we don't just buy ideas easily. Some of us, when we go on TV and say something, a big chunk of people believe us. So before we say, oh, so and so is fighting for Kenya, let us do a due diligence. I won't jump on anybody because they are popular. I won't jump on anybody because they come from my village. I won't jump on anybody because they are my neighbor or they look like me. I will first of all do my due diligence. And I'm also asking everybody should also be given due diligence. No one should look like a sacrificial, let's say a clean lamp. All of us should be given this process of due diligence. At the moment, what we need to be doing is proper due diligence before we make these people become our heroes. Because sometimes after they become a hero, you can't stop them. And if we make the mistake of endorsing them and start praising them, we're in trouble. I stood in Kitengela in church and asked Kalonzo that, wewe ni moja wa wale ambao wanatuibia ama wewe ni moja ambao sisi tunaadhiwa nayo? Kama wewe ni moja wao, mbona unakuja huku? So I told him when he say it's either choosing operation Okoa Ruto or operation Okoa Kenya. Na akasema that's the wrong question. Ni operation save Kenya against operation save Wezi. That is the only thing. No, Ruto is just one of the thieves, and we cannot replace him with one of them. And of course, later they called me and they told me, oh, nimeongea vibaya. But the point remains that I believe on what I'm trying to say. If we make wrong distinction between the two sides, the broad-based government, there's no opposition and there's no government. All these people should be put in one basket between wezi, wenye wanaiba, na sisi ambao wanaibiwa. Na after we champion and say tumechoka kuibiwa, we shall send wenye wanatuibia nyumbani, alafu nchi yetu itabadilika. Asante sana na Mungu awabariki.
Before you leave, I think 254 wants to ask you a question or maybe thank you on my behalf. 254, very quickly before he leaves.
Thank you, Redemptor. I just wanted to echo Professor's strong message and say thank you so much for the candid conversation and perhaps maybe from my point of view, I think that is the harsh reality that Kenyans must be told every day, because um, we should all look at the issues at hand and not be emotive about it, because unfortunately, to say, the more emotions we keep having, the more we keep getting into the wrong cycle every now and then. So as you rightly said, it is them versus us, because we are the ones being stolen from. We are the victims. So unless we sit back and arm ourselves to be very targeted and make that change, then Kenya will not see any brighter or better day tomorrow or the next 10 years. So thank you so much. I personally think that is the message that should be echoing in all our minds right now. It's not anything personal. It's just an issue-based system. So if we have a problem, let's focus on fixing the problem and not the people, because some of these people will not change. They've been in government for 30 to 40 years. We've seen no change. So it is the harsh reality. So thank you so much, Professor. And I wish you well in your travels. I hope to see the projects you're doing succeed. And I hope that one day we will see you in leadership in this country in one capacity or the other.
Thank you, my brother, and good night. Thank you.
Good night and God bless you and stay safe.
Re-
You are a critic of the government and you know they don't like that. Davy Zoo. I don't know how I can say your name.
Redemptor, sorry, can you give me 30 seconds if you don't mind?
Oh, that's Ja. Okay. Davy,
Can I go on?
yes, Davy, you may go on.
Okay. Mine is just short. Okay, I've seen a lot
That's
of civic education going on around, and I, I've been wondering. There's something that does not sit right with me. When I look at a lot of people, professors, doctors, people who are more educated in the society, they always fall. They always fall victim to these political parties games. The games that the politicians play. These are the people that we look forward to. These are our role models in the society. But politicians have a way of encoiling them and sell their narrative so well. And it takes them a lot of time to realize that they have been windhooked, they have been lied to. So my worry is this, Redemptor, like if these are the most learned people who are like wise, in the society, what about those people who don't have civic education? People who are just, on the ground, a commoner, what about them? Because I see a lot of people who are like, they have leadership skills. People will look forward to professors, our teachers, our role model. They fall for these politicians' narratives, and they end up voting for them, and this is my fear all the time. I'm always scared for this because I've seen this happen every election cycle. So that is what I wanted to point out. So do you believe, I think we soon, if you can have a space, maybe in the future about this civic education, what are the demerits? What can we work on different? Because doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is just insanity. So that's my submission for now, and just think around that note, because this is what Akinaruto, they're this is like their strength, like magic. I don't know what they do to these people, and they just fall for all these lies. Thank you so much, and I'll be listening because I'm at work, and I'm here. Thank you so much.
that. Sorry, my mic is misbehaving. Thank you very much. The reason why I hold space is because I can have access to the professors. Now, politics in Kenya, I've said, is a cult. And the way cults work is you do not care about the facts about your leader. You've bought into that they have superpowers. If you look at what is happening in Kenya and why I'm insisting on having very solid conversations, is because the emotions is you identify with them as a savior. I was a Raila cow, and I was a Raila cow because there was no alternative. So I was caught up in the lesser evil. I didn't care if he was not from my tribe, he was a comrade. But he knew that. He knew we looked up to him as a savior. And so they have weaponized poverty. And so you find professors like Professor Ogola here, who I don't know has how many degrees and PhDs, who lost his job because he was telling us the truth. Then you find someone like Sonko, who made money from I don't know where. Today I'll get in trouble because I'm naming all these names. But there's something Kenya's identified with when he started making these ambulances, picking people, giving people handouts. So I think the poverty makes people who would otherwise, I mean, currently, let me keep naming them so that they come and look for me and call me out if they have to. Everyone looked up to Sifuna, but now he's the head of, well, what they call them, Secretary General of ODM. And so he's conflicted. He has a young political career, he's eloquent, he looks sincere. His uncle was a freedom fighter in Kenya, but then he has this party that made him. So the way we said we don't have political parties, we have sororities. He belongs there because they buttered his bread. And so that's the conversation, that the reason why today I chose to talk about the games politicians play is because it's not just the young people, it's not just the uneducated masses that are fooled. They fool professors, because you have to toe the line. Kenyans know there are only two horses, either belong to Jubilee or ODM. So we have to be smack in the middle. When someone who preaches integrity, like Ruben Kigame, try to vie for position, then he's not given an opportunity. Games political parties play at the cost of human lives. How many people have died? So that we keep following these people. When your hand is up, 254, your hand is up, then I'll ask a few questions because we have around 24 minutes. And anyone can raise their hand if you want to. I don't know whose hand was up. Wendy?
Thanks, Redempta. Japunji, education is still elitist in Kenya, or most of the world rather. And so I think the few people who, they're just people like us who make it to the height of academic success. And so, as I said before, when I started, it's the balance between good and evil. And so you'll find in the same academic, the academy, you'll find people like Prof, and you'll find people like like people who, like, so I don't think we should idol, like Redemptor said, we tend to put people on a pedestal. So just because someone is a professor, it doesn't really matter. Like what like just because they're a professor doesn't mean that whatever they're saying is right. And perhaps this, like, maybe to expound on your question, and what Redemptor said, I think this is why I keep on calling, and this is, again, I keep hammering on this point: what are we as a people? Because if any saying, like, if you've listened to Kigame, I had the opportunity to be with him on a space, like 20 minutes with the guy, by the way, kura yangu inaenda kwake, versus if I listened to who, like, some other professor. Like, I think, what do we pedestalize as a people, and what do we aspire to as a people, such that we keep putting certain people on a pedestal and certain ideals, like bora nifike ni god maze, like, what are we? I think this is, thanks to Damta for this space, because I'm so frustrated. What are we as a people? Again, you asked about Wanjigi. He said, "Oh, I helped save these two people who, in their right minds, there's a judicial process against certain people who in their right minds would be like, oh, I'm saving you. If like, for me as a lawyer, I'd be like, okay, let justice take, there's the presumption of innocence, but let justice take its course, and then maybe we can see after that. Who in their right minds would be like, oh, let's save these people? Like, Kenyans, what do we pedestalize? What do we idealize? What do we, yeah, let me stop being frustrated. Thanks, Redempta.
Thank you. When I go to spaces, and why I join spaces is I keep saying I know my country. And I think there are a lot of people who just come into the political situation and with very good intentions, doing great jobs, going to court, but they have refused to address the issue of the games political parties play at the cost of human life. And if I don't keep having this conversation with people, we are going to walk into another trap. Because I asked a question, Mizani, I think this one I would want to throw to you. When Raila compromised and gave some of his people to join government, everyone was outraged because people had died. Right now, Kalonzo is the official opposition, and we are not outraged. And because I'm not tribal, I bought into tribeless, leaderless, and partyless. And because young people died, and because I'm a mother when I'm not a writer and when I'm not an activist, I wear the heart of a mother and I ask the young people, oh, let's go to that space tonight where we are going to talk about how we are going to the streets. I ask them, do you know the games that are played? They've been listening to you. They know you have the powers. Mizani 254, you also have a what is it called? A cultural identity. What is the temptation for me to support Kalonzo just because he's from my tribe? And how are we going to overcome the balkanization on tribal lines? Because there are people who are following conversations and they do not even know it. But deep down is because the person who is making clarion calls bears a name that they can relate with. Mizani.
Uh, I think when you mention such issues, Redemptor, I want to handle them not from what we call the academic approach to conversations and the very elitist way of looking at it. But I want us to tone it down and now really think as the people that we are. Now, this is going to be a short and a long one, so kindly just give me a sign if I exceed. If any of us today was to get a job promotion and you belong to a clique of a family, 9 out of 10, you'll have overwhelming support from your family members. Now, I don't know if psychologists are in the house who can explain that phenomena, but from my view and the way I interact with people, the human psychology will do this because one, they are genuinely happy that finally something good is happening in your life. But their happiness exceeds that because they also share in your success. So everything you get to gain, by default expectation, also becomes their win. And lastly, the ones that dislike you, they're in two categories. One, because they really think you don't deserve it and it should have been them in that position. Or simply put, they have honest reservations about what effect you will have once you get that success. And that is the issue we also face within the political life that we live. And when I say life we live, it's because I am convinced each and every one of us is directly affected by games politicians and political parties play. Today, as we were speaking, names have been dropped, and Redemptor, I hope you will sleep safe and sound because some people don't have sleep nowadays.
I'll be sued, but it's okay.
No, suing, it's also part of becoming a celebrity, so don't worry about that. You'll just have to get good lawyers. But back to the point, when we see the kind of cases we are now handling that are high profile, among them the Adani deal, the intention behind it earlier was to actually secure Kenyans' interest. The same thing that happened on the 25th of June, the biggest interest was young people specifically had had enough and saw that if they don't seize the moment, their future was going to be destroyed. Unfortunately, and I do remember, we made a tweet and said, if we are not careful, and that is us Kenyans, this movement, there are individuals that will arise, take advantage, and they will feast on our bones. That prophecy did not stay too long. We had some conversation happening that Raila is, trying to talk to the president, and eventually the cabinet was dissolved. And we refused to focus on what was the intention. And do you know why, Redemptor? Because the people that were driving the conversation of what we need to achieve with these demos, most of them were there because it was a moment to have a TikTok video. And this might sound rude to those of you who worked very hard and might feel offended, but that is the truth. There are people who actually continued doing these activations because they had airtime to gain a few bucks from Elon Musk. There are also people who it was the opportunity to get to the diaspora pockets and get a lot of remittances. I mean, there are people here who can acknowledge you've sent money, a lot of it home, in support of a country that you want to see. So why I've gone through all these corners, Redemptor, is to also illustrate the fact that you might feel right now in between a junction or a crossroad, because one, there's a man that you relate to in terms of your ethnic identity, who is just close enough to the power and looks to be the only option. So what will happen is you are easily convinced that you need to go with them. So you are also closer to the power. And that is not because you wish that they can get it, but you also think as a result, you will actually enjoy the spoils. Okay, Redemptor, your hand is up. I think that was the warning. So in conclusion, unfortunately, as we sit today, unless as a young generation today, we reset our mind and understand that it is not a Raila fight, it is not a Kalonzo fight, it is not even a Gachagua fight or any other person that is in court. It is about the absolute reality that today people that earned their salaries and showed you their pay slips, they cannot afford their basic. Those are the things we need to be fighting for, Redemptor. I can tell you, I have contributed more than $2,000 the last 2 weeks for people who are in hospital. This is not my job. This is a government authority such as the chief that need to be taken care of. And we can pride ourselves as diaspora and we are doing well. But the truth of the reality is we are being impoverished by the same government that is insisting of ferrying Kenyans abroad. So you are broke at home, you are broke abroad, and when you come back home, you have nothing to show of it. This is not about Kalonzo. It is about us and the life we are looking at with nothing to show of. Thank you, Redemptor.
Thank you very much. I scored you a few marks, and then I still want to know how Adani was meant to benefit us. No, we won't go there. An African storyteller, we just had a professor, so I'm simplifying things for you guys. So I don't know if you've ever heard this riddle. A leopard goes to a village and only attacks brothers and cousins. If you have the answer to this riddle, please raise your hand. I know 254, your hand is up. Hannah, your hand is up. Any new hand? I will come back with the answer because that explains what is going on in our country right now. A leopard goes to a villager and only attacks brothers and cousins. Hannah, please make it short. Then I can explain the riddle so that we take this conversation.
I think you are talking about we are our own problems. Actually, it's about my brother who's going to come and attack me. It's not somebody who's coming from another country or another world. It is my brother who comes from the same family or the same environment where I am, who is going to attack me at the end of the day. But what I want to put out is this. You know, the mandate of the government of the day is only to bring peace in the country, that is one, and secure services that the country needs. But on top of that, it can only bring one or two agendas. It can birth one and bring it to forth for those 5 years that they are supposed to be in power. But this current government tunatengewagwa, bado tutatengewa. Yani from even now to the future we will still be tengewed. But at the end of the day ukiangalia ni nini wanatafuta, it's only the money that we have. They are coming to our pockets. That's the fact of the issue. And this did not start yesterday. This started when Uhuru came in power. We started with those Huduma numbers. We went to change of passports. We went to the change of driving license. Mara pikipiki sijui nini. Mara everybody has to go back to school, do their driving again. And you get to ask yourself, what was that jiggling thing we were being thrown east and west all of a sudden? Because this does not work. It has to have a specific. And the thing is, because they did not have enough money to steal, because our taxes, they are coming from those little quantities of things that we buy in the house. They have to go and look for other ways and means. But when it comes to services, everything is falling apart. And when you ask them, you are the bad people. And this also shows that this is how we are being treated even outside countries. You see Africans being wanachomwa huko Arabia, others they are throwing themselves out from the window. And you ask yourself, even you go and ask that lady for the one who the one for diaspora, who's supposed to take care of those who are on the diaspora, and she comes and tells you, you know what, we told them not to go to Lebanon, but they still went. You ask yourself, what is this type of this is not how people talk. You gather your people, you protect your people, and that's even why we do not have lawyers in those embassies. I will yield my mic because I've seen the side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah. 254 before I make my other. Today I'm naming names. I'm tired of people being fooled by politicians and I just sit by. 254 before I say why the leopard only attacks brothers and cousins.
Thank you, Redemptor. I just had. I think we can all hear the frustration, specifically from Wendy and Hannah, and as a Kenyan people, I think my message has always been the same, even when I speak in different spaces with different people. I always say the same thing. Sometimes it's good to look at the reality of where you're coming from, and the unfortunate reality, just like as Eli was making his submission, is that today, given the opportunity, 9 out of 10 people will do the same exact thing Ruto is doing. And that's the unfortunate reality of this country. And for me, I think the reason why I always base my conversations around the issues we have is that, to be quite honest, when you look at the reality, and Redemptor, you mentioned that you're a mother, and I think the fundamental pain point for most of the older generation is this the kind of problems we face is not the kind of challenges we want our children to face in this country. We don't want our children to go to school, very expensive schools, because nowadays there's nothing like free education anymore. No one wants to take their children to the so-called polling stations anymore because education has to be in a private school somewhere. And tomorrow or the day after, and I believe for all of us, you in the previous maybe 1 year or in the next coming 3 months, you'll be in a WhatsApp group where it's a medical emergency for somebody or a friend of somebody I mean, the thought of a country working is that you don't have to struggle. The services are there for you and you can access them. And even if you have to pay, then you're paying fair price for the service you get. So I think that's the reality. And the fundamental frustration with everyone is that we want to see it work. We are trying to see it work. Unfortunately, like Hannah, just to correct Hannah, this did not start with Uhuru Kenyatta. It's been there since independence. We started on the wrong footing. we have a fundamental problem. And for me, I specifically say this because I, I don't deny that I come from a tribe in Kenya. Fine, I come from a tribe, but I didn't choose which tribe I came from. But I am a Kenyan. I was born here, I was raised here, I was educated here, I work here. And unfortunately, for some of these young people, it might also sound unpopular. But the reason I don't go to the streets every day is because I work in the private sector. I am employed. I have bills to pay. I have mouths to feed. I have obligations and loans to pay every single month. So I have financial realities that I face. And for most people, they don't like people saying that. But that is the reality we go through. So I want to see a better Kenya, yes. But I want to see a Kenya where everyone has a fair and equal opportunity so that when you work hard, you get rewarded. Just like what Professor was saying, meritocracy. If you work hard, you get paid. I mean, we sit here and we'll say, okay, fine, we enjoy seeing the US and we say US is a very good state and first world countries work. But imagine there are people, and this is the sad reality, you have doctors who save lives, but you have people in another country in the US who drive cars for a living and they earn more money. The people who play basketball, play football, which we are all fans of. We watch sports every other weekend in this country. All those people cannot do simply simple things like what doctors can do, but they earn more money. They live better lives. Why? Because talent is appreciated. We all have different talents. And the country I think I'm looking forward to is a country where everyone has a talent that can be appreciated and everyone has an equal opportunity to thrive. That's just the basics. So much as people are looking for change, look inward to yourself. What are you doing in your own home, in your own house, to encourage even the people around you to live better, to do better, to make better decisions. So that when you're sitting there and questioning Ruto, ask yourself, if today you're the president, are you not going to give your spouse 700 million for an office? Thank you. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, 254. Acknowledge Juma. I've tried to give you just as Juma the mic. Nonini, thank you for always coming to my space. When did I see that hand? And Marabu, I heard your song the other day. Great piece. I'm really interested in it, in artists, because I'm one. So, storyteller. Why does a leopard go to a village and only attack brothers and cousins? It is because when the leopard attacks one brother, all the other brothers jump in and the cousins jump in. So only people from one clan end up fighting with the tiger. That is what has happened to Kenya in the last few weeks. When Gachagua was attacked, the brothers automatically, instinctively jumped to protect him. They felt like their own had been attacked. And that is what is ailing this country. And so I feel sad for the young people, sad because they go to spaces where I see tribalists, where I see people who want to use them as a human shield to get into power. And I am helpless to talk about it. So today, Mizani, I named all the names. I don't know if these big wigs will ever come to my space again, because I have to ask them, where were you when the young people were getting killed? I've been looking for the mothers of the nation. I know Mother Karua might be on the ballot, does not want to be somebody's flower girl. I've tried to reach out to her to come to my show. I can't find her. So I find these people, I call them, I tell them what I do, and they want to come because they have an audience. They are politicians. They're just like pastors. They might win souls in that conversation. And the reason why I'm singling out Mother Karua is a lot of the beating we beat up on her, that during 2007, she was the one defending the votes for Kibaki, is because she's a woman. Because with the same breath, Ruto was fighting for the votes of Raila. And that's something we have to keep reminding the younger generation, that when you see mention Kalonzo Musyoka, I am from Yatta. He was allocated land in Yatta. I am landless today as an older woman. And I'm not just a mother, I am a grandmother. So for me to stop everything I'm doing to come and tell you, look, my great uncle was a freedom fighter who went to Kapenguria. But when he got into power, he abused power. He abused power to the extent by the time he was dying, he was in debt. So my family members can come here and say, why are you talking about it? Because anybody who is gifted with the skill to speak in public is going to lie to you and say, let's go to the streets again. We are Adani this, Adani that. But I can tell you the day an authentic voice, authentic, genuine, from a spiritual point of view, the day a clear voice says, let's go to the streets, you will see what happened in June happening again. Until that time, when I say, don't just, I won't allow my daughter to go to the streets. And she will not go because we come to spaces and we hear people saying, we are not going to go to the streets again until we arm people. And I'm like, why do you want to put our young people in harm's way because of your political gain? So today I'm just coming up and saying, if you go to a space where they are telling you that we have to remove Ruto from power by protests, that is a politician playing the games politicians play. The day a young person like the real Joe calls for maandamano and people believe his voice, they will come out in their thousands. Young men and women keep coming to the streets. They came on 8th. I was there on 8th. I was there on 20th of October just to make observations. I interviewed very genuine young people who dressed in black to come and make a memorial. So today's space was specific.
We had lost you for a while. Now I can hear you.
Me. I've been mentioning big names today. Honestly, I am offended, like Nonini, by all the deaths that happened in Kenya in June. Those people did not die so that the old politicians can regroup. They can come dressed, they are behaving like chameleons, and they are speaking the language the young people want to hear. So I have made it my life mission from now on as I do civic education. I will tell you about the players, what they stand for. I will mention names sometimes if I have to. I thank the professor if he will listen to this space because he said there are only two kinds of people, wale wanaiba na wale wanaibwa. Some of us are living in misery, broke, in loans because it is economy ya fuliza na system ya matapeli na majambazi. And so we have to start calling this is a majambazi, this one benefited this way. And maybe if we keep doing it from a very authentic place, maybe people will start trusting us. So I'm getting exhausted of some of the spaces because if you don't speak that language, I hear people's voices, they are older people, they sound like they are my age mates, and they start inciting the young people. I used to come to spaces. I never used to sleep during the maandamano because my area of activism is brutalized Kenyans. I never used to sleep because I knew I was out of Nairobi and I knew my daughter was the other one was not because she was not in a position to come to the streets, but my youngest child was always in those streets. And I'm trying to say, do not go to the streets until an authentic voice calls you to the streets. And she always asks me, how will how will I know when it's an authentic? I told her, if you're a spiritual being, you will know because in June you knew that call was from a very genuine place. I'm not calling all people are not genuine. I'm not here to say I'm better than anybody else, but I'm just telling you I know the games political parties and politicians play. They are just like a good con man. They change their language to suit you. They start saying these young people, and some of them I talk to them behind the scenes. So that's why I'm saying maybe they will not come to my spaces again because they say Redempta has interviewed us and she knows what we stand for. Some just want jobs. I am saddened that Margaret Wanjiru got a job. She's a mother. She's supposed to be a mother of this nation. Should have said, you know what, my child was an MP. Let me pass this opportunity to a less fortunate member of my society, in our church, and the people that choose to follow her. So the people who are on the panel, I'll give you 2 minutes each to say something, and then we'll close the show. Start with 254, Mizani, The Real Joe, Hannah, Wendy.
Thank
1 minute. Actually, it's not 2 minutes, 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you, Redemptor. And I think it is for me a much clearer space to sit in when people can actually talk and look at the right issues. And I also encourage you in your effort and in your mission, because you have to call out things when you see they are wrong, because that is what is called for being an active citizen, for being a patriot, so that you see something being wrong and you say it how it is. And the more we keep saying it how it is when we'll start seeing the true leaders, the true Kenyans, the true patriots of this country coming out to do better for all of us. So I'll end it by saying Kenya really deserves better in every turn, in everything that you read or see from politicians. Question it to the last letter, um, and keep at it. Keep the faith that Kenya will be better one day. I don't know how long it will take, but we are in it. Hopefully, we'll see it together, and we'll rejoice in saying that our children have a better future because of our resolve to change this country for the better. So, thank you all. I wish you all a pleasant night, a pleasant week, and weekend ahead. And in any space that we meet together, please let's keep sharing the same ideas. And Redemptor, I hope everything will be okay, and don't fear anyone. For me, I stopped fearing a long time ago. We've got too much to do anyway in this life for us to fear anyone. Thank you.
Mizani 254, and please clear your name that you didn't say Adani was meant for good.
No, I at no point illustrated that Adani was meant for good. I said the narrative to propagate the Adani case was meant to look like finally we have some saviors. The truth of the matter is the deal in itself does not favor the Kenyan populace, and neither does it reflect the aspirations of the Kenyan people. Now, as we defend that in court, now the figures that are behind the case should also tell us what is it in for them. My answer to that is very little to do with the populace and everything to do with politics. But that is a case and an issue that will be determined when we finally count the clock. Number two, we have asked here a number of times, does history tell us anything with what we do and how we decide our fate? My answer to it is that yes, anyone that pays attention to history, and that's why I love Redemptor's approach of conversations, you will realize that the patterns keep repeating themselves. A famous quote by Professor Patrick Lumumba always says, nyani ni wale wale, misitu ndio inazidi kubadilika. It is not a common thing for a hero to emerge from nowhere, but the heroes of this country are the young people and young men and women, and including the elderly, who still believe that the country Kenya belongs to all of us. Those are our heroes. And I pray and beseech to all of us that as we pursue the conversation of saving country Kenya, country 254, we will remember that almost 70% of that in the youthful generation are jobless. We might play politics with this, but eventually it will cost human life. Thank you.
The real Joe, thank you for always coming to Mizani 254 for life. Anna, thank you for always being here. The real Joe. You went and came back. Hebu tuambie umeona nini huko nje.
Thank you. Apparently, along the way, I lost connection, but I'm back. But I lost the conversation somehow. But I'll play the recording. Of course, it's a recorded space, so I would wish to listen to some of the sentiments that were raised when I was away. But I'm sure it was a very good conversation. It is always a very good conversation here. But yeah, political parties in our country are those institutions that have had to get away with a lot of bad behavior because we concentrate on the end product which is the leadership that now we get. And we fail to concentrate on these vehicles that bring this leadership to life. And not forgetting that political parties are essential institutions of a democracy. They can shape public opinion. And therefore, we really need to start holding political parties in our country to account. As per our constitution, Article 91, we need to start holding political parties to account. We really need to, as young people, it is a wake-up call again. We've left parties, party issues to older generation and things like that. But I think young people need to start directly participating and shaping up what democracy should look like for them. We talk about political parties, but political parties actually, for me, the very basic fundamental building blocks of a political party is a collection, it's just a group of people with a single idea or just an ideology. But this ideology should be something that drives a nation. Political parties are supposed to be as strong as, like the institutions that we have. Political parties are supposed to be the first vehicles, that the first institutions that check the government and try to push for change in our country. And therefore, without them, we cannot have a proper democracy. So moving forward, we've seen that political parties can be used as tools. And right now that is happening. And we've heard people say that, no, you young people, you don't have political parties. So you have to join the political parties that are there. You'll be sold Wiper, you'll be sold any other political party. In the name of you don't have political parties. You need to start thinking about getting into this. It is part of the change that we want as a people. Let's start solving these problems from the root. But moving forward, we must also understand that change comes at a cost. Change takes time. We must understand that. And therefore, anybody who tries to sell you any agenda that is short-lived, someone wants to tell you that, we can do this by tomorrow, by this day, and you feel like that's the only thing that you can work towards. Don't mislead yourself. Let us have a focus. Let us continue educating ourselves. We need to continuously educate ourselves. We talk about civic education, and like I say, education is something that is quantifiable. We are supposed to be able to see civic education in practice. We are supposed to be able to quantify civic education, because education is something that is constant as well. So as I conclude, let us start holding political parties as institutions, because they are institutions. They are funded by the exchequer. They're funded by our taxes. Let us hold them to account. And if possible, let us then have our own political parties and instill ideologies and bring up the good behavior in politics and shun away from this bad behavior we are seeing all the time. I would wish to talk more, but I came late. But it is always a good place to be here. And I'm happy I was joined by my colleague Mizani is here. And in Mizani, there's this mentorship that happens for leadership and things like that. You always hear Mizani talk about leadership. There was a conference about leadership, because we understand that young people need to be mentored in terms of leadership. So this is something that we need to be discussing more often moving forward than short-lived solutions. Thank you, Redemptor. Thank you.
Thank you, the real Joe. Hannah, half a minute. I'm giving you half a minute because we are over by 15 minutes.
Okay. Kenya is the best country in this world, according to me. And I am, because somebody before our forefathers thought about us in the future. So we have to think also about the future of our future people, our future children, our future grandchildren who are going to be coming in this world, and they should enjoy better fruits than the ones that we were left with. So it is upon us now to do the best in our humble places and bring out the best because we have better situation than even our forefathers who had to fight with only few little things. Right now, we have the freedom of our mouth, our words, our thoughts, and there are these little things that are bringing us down. We can maneuver them, we can go around them, we can go under them and out on top of them and make the best out of it. So we have to bring a forward thinking to navigate this political uncertainty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah. Wendy?
Thanks, Redempta. So the cost of human life, I think I'll end with 2 points. I'll use a bit of Christian Orthodox canon. And since antiquity, there have been rich and poor people. The gap between the rich and poor has always been there. But if you look at the book of Enoch, when the giants came to the earth and consumed so much that they started even consuming human beings, even God said Apana and sent the great flood. And in modern times, you see people who are rich, they have so much that even their great grandchildren will never have to work a day in their life. Yet in the same country, we have women being dumped in quarry. We have a young man whose life was cut short and dumped in like a in it was a quarry at the same time. So when is it enough? Even one Kenyan life, no Kenyan life is worth more than the other. When is enough? Are there 600 people who've been killed? When is it worth killing for all this? Is it what is it that I think 254 you said we'll all when we get there we'll all do the same. But I think for me, is money worth even killing one life, or is it worth it? Like at the end of the day. Thanks so much, Idamta.
Thank you. I don't like to pretend to be an elitist or a very educated person. The things that I know because I was given a gift by my ancestors and by the mighty God, that I see things. And Siokema was a prophetess in the Kamba community, and she lived way before even the colonialists came. And one of the roles she had was to tell young people or the warriors of that community, now you can go to war, now you should not go to war. And I feel that I came to these spaces when I joined spaces in June. My daughter has been on space and has made contributions, but I don't introduce her. But she told me, my dear mother, they will eat you alive in X. And I told her I'm a big girl, I can put up with it. And so the reason I came to space is because I deal with brutalized Kenyans. And in my whole life, from 2017, I have never seen a regime with so much bloodshed. There lies the bodies of 191, removed two, because two were buried, or four were buried. 191 bodies of children in a container somewhere in Malindi that have never been buried. And because of those bodies, and I'm speaking here as whether through just right and wrong ethics, until those children are buried, this regime will never know peace. I remember the first time I came to space being hosted by LSK, and they had just found bodies from Quarry, and I was speaking with so much conviction and my voice was shaking, and I made those utterances. When Rex Masai was shot, I stopped everything I was doing. I was done. I was done standing by as young people who have no future unless they fight for themselves. In every generation in folktales of Africa, in every generation there arises evil, evil so great that there's no option than for God to save the nation. And I think we are there as a nation. I think the evil that befalls us, I'm willing to stake my life and keep speaking and say we are dealing with evil. We're no longer dealing with impunity. We are dealing with a man who's become so powerful. He's saying there's nothing you're going to do. I will buy anyone. But the truth is, there's something that he has no control over. One is mortality. In as much as I'll walk around maybe wondering if I'll be bundled in a vehicle, he is also afraid. When Jimmy Wanjigi came out and exposed their secrets, I interviewed him in my show. Tell us about the audience debt. Because where we are being held in captivity is not a political issue. It is an economic issue. And so I listened to him. Doesn't mean I endorsed him. And so we are going to have to listen to these people because one of them, at the end of the day, will have to be daring enough to face the evil that befalls us. Because of the shedding of the innocent blood that has happened in this Kenya, Ruto will be a one-term president. I'm getting bolder and bolder as we go. When I hear someone is missing, instead of getting scared, I actually get angry because there's nothing wrong we are doing by speaking in these spaces. So when I hear people misleading young people, I'll say, this belongs to you. You are the chosen generation. It is this generation that will save Kenya. But it's not going to come because you've had a very emotional speech given somewhere, or these people are walking out of TV sets to say we stand with Gen Zs. We are not going to be interviewed with someone who said they should be dead. I keep repeating, learn to have discernment. Today we've had Professor Ogola as our main guest, and after he alichoma shule na certificate, anajua I'm in trouble, go and listen to what he had to say. This is a man with I don't know how many degrees, and he's saying he refuses to be bribed by politicians. But nobody will believe him and give him an opportunity for leadership. There's something wrong with us as Kenyans. We do not get the leaders we deserve. We are conned, tunaibiwa. Remember the young man who was running to the airport shouting, Muindi ametuibia airport? That was a spiritual moment. That was not an ordinary moment. And so to the Wasanis like Nonini, I know you're not sleeping well thinking of how can I use my gift to keep doing this? The right time you write another song, and even that offended, one day we'll play it over and over on national days to honor all the young people. All they had was courage for a better chance. The poverty in this country is doctored so that we keep voting for thieves and for killers. This is the end of it, because whether I'm alive or not, you will listen to the sound of my voice and say, that woman came to these spaces not to look for a seat, but to tell you, people, you're on the right path. Listen to that deep voice that is saying that tumechezwa, tumeuawa, tumefanyiwa matendo mabaya. The people who have been dying in this country, never in my lifetime have I had so many body counts of people found. The young women who were found in Quarry, that was human sacrifice. And it's going to backfire because God has had enough. Mizani, I wanted to have a last word. I don't know why you're raising your hand. Unataka steal my thunder. Half a minute and then I'll close.
Pole sana, ma'am. I respect you. But as I do that, I just want to draw your attention, and I know you've talked about it. How evil can we be to the extent that 23 candidates in a school in Uasin Gishu do not know their fate for sitting fake examinations? This is the same county that people are being ferried to Finland, I believe. But guess what? It's business as usual, and nobody will go to jail. That's how evil we've become. We don't care. Thank you.
And when people asked me to talk about Endarasa, I did not want to talk about it. It was too painful for me. When now I'm speaking against some of these politicians, when Mora was shot in Madare, please go and watch a documentary called Under Your Watch. That man, after he lost his child in the elections of 2017, is still waiting for Raila to get him justice. Not because Raila is responsible, but Raila walked in their house in Madare and said, nitahakikisha utapata haki. That is why I'm speaking against these politicians today. That is why I'm not going to apologize. I will keep doing this until a young person listens to me and says, there's a woman who's been coming to spaces and said, wake up, listen to your heart. Don't listen to people. Listen to your heart and you will liberate your country. I wish you well, power to all the genuine people, to all the people who come to listen to us so that they counter. This is a spiritual moment. You can't touch us because we'll keep sending this message until Kenya is free. Kenya will be free. It's a great country. Thank you for trusting me with your time and giving your time. We are going to do this. I don't know how, I don't know who, but we are going to liberate this country because we are oppressed. Asanteni sana. Value for life. We value every life. And respect to all the people who pass in the cruel hands of politicians who just want power. They want so much money they will never use it. Itawaramba. Those are the words of an occult leader. And imeanza kuwaramba. Asanteni.